Hello out there, this is OGTV News. Thanks so much for joining us. My name is Bukola Agbakesu. Top on the stories. Federal Ogun government set to construct 500 housing units for 2018 flood victims. Organized labor protest differential wage bill. CBN expends 85 billion naira on health sector intervention facility. UK summons EU diplomat over COVID vaccine supply. Your failure does not define you, your determination does.
Coming up on the sports segment of the news tonight, Brazil set to name iconic Maracana Stadium after Pelé. This and many more later. My name, Hakeem Akitunde. You're welcome.
Thanks so much for joining us once again. Now the news in full. We begin with the NLC protest. Nigerian workers in their hundreds stormed the National Assembly complex in Abuja, demanding the withdrawal of a bill that would remove the national minimum wage from the exclusive to the concurrent legislative list. About a fortnight ago, the House of Representatives introduced a bill which, according to the sponsor, Honorable Garuba Mohammed, would allow both the federal and state governments to freely negotiate the minimum wage with the workers in line with the nation's federal system. This move, the protesting workers say, does not work in their favor, stressing that it is an attempt by some state governors and members of the National Assembly to shortchange them. The workers under the aegis of the Nigeria Labour Congress and its affiliates forced their way through the gates of the National Assembly despite attempts by the security personnel to stop them. They were received by the Deputy Chief Whip of the Senate, Sabi Abdullahi, who tried to pacify the protesters who were demanding to speak with the Senate President. With both the Senate President and Speaker of the House of Representatives absent, President of the NLC, Ayuba Waba, again reiterated the position of the workers, saying if nothing is done to stop the bill and ensure implementation of the national minimum wage, the organized labor will have no option than to embark on a nationwide strike. Mr. Waba had earlier stated that the protest was to ensure that the rights of Nigerian workers to enjoy the minimum wage in line with the international standards is established and not infringed upon. After the briefing, the NLC president and his TUC counterpart presented the letter of protest to both representatives of the Senate President, Sabi Abdullahi, and that of the House of Representatives, Ado Dogua. In reaction, Honorable Dogua assured the protesters that the House will give listening ears to the concerns of the workers. According to him, the only justice to the bill is to kill it as requested by the workers. And still on NLC protest, in Ogun State, the Nigeria Labour Congress and its Trade Union Congress counterparts have expressed their displeasure over the recent move by the National Assembly to remove the minimum wage from the exclusive list and place it on the concurrent list. The peaceful protest was led by the NLC chairman, Comrade Emmanuel Bankole, and TUC chairman, Comrade Bumi Fajobi, to the State House of Assembly, Okemoson, Abeokuta. Correspondent Kolawole Osho covered the protest, and his report is presented in this package.
Leaders and members of the Nigeria Labour Congress, NLC, and Trade Union Congress, TUC, in Ogun State came out in a peaceful protest to the State House of Assembly to intimate the leadership of the House of their position on a private bill sponsored by a member representing Sabongari Federal Constituency. According to the NLC chairman in the state, Comrade Emmanuel Bankole, and his TUC counterpart, Comrade Bumi Fajobi, the bill, which is seeking the transfer of the national minimum wage from the exclusive legislative list to the concurrent legislative list, will negate the effort of the Nigeria class if passed. The duo described the bill as an orchestrated strategy to undermine the rights of Nigerian workers. They, however, prayed the Speaker to use his good office to take good judgment whenever this anti-labor bill is presented to the House of Assembly.
The practice of minimum wage is a globally accepted concept. And so, somebody cannot just wake up and think that we can just remove it. We are saying no to this, and we are saying with all our strength, no to removal of minimum wage. There is no way the organized labor will open its eyes and accept that the minimum wage be removed from the exclusive list.
Speaker Right Honorable Olakunle Oluomo, in his response, assured workers in the state that their request for the support of a national minimum wage will always be granted anytime the bill comes up for debate, saying the state has always been national minimum wage compliant.
We don't need to encourage Nigerian workers to do. We need to add to the fact that we have to bring up the volume of what our workers are entitled to. This House of Assembly will put our own letter on it and address it to the appropriate quarters.
In another development, the State House of Assembly Committee on Public Accounts and Anti-Corruption has examined the 2015 to 2019 audit report of the State Universal Basic Education Board, SUBEB, and therefore requested for the submission of necessary documents to support all cost line outlined in its records before March 23, 2021. The chairman of the committee, Honorable Musefiu Lamidi, who made the request, noted that the expected document included all approvers, payments vouchers, and DVEA on maintenance of schools for the year 2019, likewise those related to planning, monitoring and evaluation expenses between 2017 and 2019.
Meanwhile, the Director General of the Progressives Governors Forum, Dr. Saliu Lukman, has described the nationwide protest by the Nigeria Labour Congress as unnecessary. Lukman, who was until his full-time foray into politics a high-ranking member of NLC, said the method being adopted by organized labor to press home its demand was outdated. He maintained that street protests will have no effect on plans by the National Assembly to consider the bill seeking to decentralize the minimum wage structure. According to him, a system that imposes the same minimum wage regime on states, irrespective of the revenue generation and capacity to pay, was not sustainable. Lukman advised the NLC to improve on its negotiation skill to be able to constructively engage both the legislature and the executive on such matters. On provision of affordable housing units for people, the federal government, in conjunction with Ogun State government, is set to commence the construction of 500 housing units for victims affected by the 2018 flood in some parts of the state. This is in fulfillment of the promise made by the Vice President, Professor Yemi Osinbajo, back in 2018 after the assessment of the damage done by the perennial flood. Benga Adekoya covered the visit of the federal government delegation who are on inspection to the site of the projects.
Dated back in July 2018, Ogun State was among few states of the Federation ravaged by the perennial flood that rendered many communities homeless, and federal government, through the National Emergency Management Agency, NEMA, has paid a visit to the affected areas to ascertain the level of damage done. Subsequent to this unwanted occurrence, the federal government inspection team was in Abeokuta on a visit to the site built for the construction of housing units for the displaced victims. Otumba village along the Ajebo Road was the first port of call, followed by a visit to Trailer Park in Shoyoye along Abeokuta-Sokoto Road. Mr. Kayode Fagbemi, Director of Relief and Rehabilitation, National Emergency Management Agency, who also doubles as the Chairman Federal Implementation Committee, disclosed that the building will consist of 2 bedrooms with other amenities within the layout alongside shopping complex, mosque, church, school, clinic, and security outposts.
The building we are looking at will be about 500. Actually, this approval has been gotten since January 2020. But to recall that between January 2020, there was COVID, there was lockdown, we couldn't move, we couldn't do many things. and we'll try. We are collaborating with the state. The state is going to support part of the project, and we ensure that we can achieve that. We know, of course, there's a little bit of inflation, which is nobody's fault, but we are going to work to ensure that we achieve our target.
The State Commissioner for Housing, Jagumolu Akonde Omoniyi, pointed out that the project, which is in conjunction with the federal government, will go a long way towards alleviating the sufferings of the people, promising to relocate all the people living along the flood-prone areas.
That 500 projected would more than take care of those that were affected by that flood disaster. So just be rest assured that the federal government and the state government will do justice to provide this shelter for this category of people.
The federal government inspection team was accompanied to the sites of the new 500 housing units by the State Commissioner for Housing, Jagumolu Akonde Omoniyi, State Commissioner for Special Duties and Intergovernmental Affairs, Barrister Femi Ogunbanwo, Permanent Secretary in the Ministry, among others. Benga Adekoya, OGTV News.
On COVID-19 vaccine now, the Speaker of the Ogun State House of Assembly, Right Honorable Olakunle Oluomo, has taken his jab of Oxford AstraZeneca COVID-19 vaccine at the Governor's Office Clinic, Okimoson, Abeokuta. The Commissioner for Health in Ogun State, Dr. Tomi Koka, while administering the vaccine on the Speaker, admonished the residents of the state to take advantage of the ongoing inoculation of the COVID-19 vaccine, describing it as a very healthy medical intervention against the virus. Speaker Oluomo commended the state government for its ingenuity and commitment towards flattening the curve of the pandemic in the state. Dr. Tomi Koka thereafter handed over the vaccine certificate to the Speaker in order to authenticate that he has been vaccinated. And still on COVID-19, Ogun State Special COVID-19 Task Force will not relent in its effort at ensuring all protocols, most especially use of face masks, are observed by all and sundry. Team leader, who doubles as the Commissioner for Culture and Tourism, made this known in the Bafo and Mowe areas of the state.
Ogun State government is not relenting in its effort at ensuring that the infection rate of COVID-19 reduces, and this can only be achieved where all and sundry keep to the rules of observing the protocols. A special task force saddled with the task of enforcing strict adherence by people has taken its campaign to Ibafo and Mowe areas in Obafemi with the local government, and the level of compliance here is so low. But noticing a mobile court, the people switched gear.
At least above average, because people have been getting aware, the awareness has been made, and people have started complying. If you look at it before, you find out that at least above level, above an average, there is compliance. So we believe that as we keep on going out, people will keep obeying, and they will keep following the protocols.
It is not only to apprehend and make people face the music, but it was an opportunity to scale up the level of sensitization so that the joint efforts could help flatten the curve of the virus under the second wave.
It's not easy for human being, very difficult. Human being by nature, we don't want to obey, but it's our duty to go out to educate them, to tell them that their ignorance is causing a lot of risks to them as an individual and to the community as a whole. And everybody should take responsibility in making sure that you put on your face mask regularly, you wash your hand, and do the social distancing.
Dr. Tony Taiwo, who is the team leader, also used the medium to sensitize the people on the COVID-19 vaccine received by the state government and the effort to rid the state of the virus.
So before we can return back to normalcy, we must ensure that everybody, as a matter of must, is vaccinated in order for us to be confident and be sure that we have arrived safely. You understand? So it's compulsory. There are arrangements going on about how everybody is going to be vaccinated. The medical team in charge are doing all they can so that at least everybody. But it does not mean after you are being vaccinated or you have taken the vaccine, that you should not be using your face mask. It's a must. You have to continue using the face mask.
The government is again using the medium to sound a note of warning to all and sundry to adhere strictly to the rules, as mobile court can be at any area at any time, and the punishment is severe. Bumi Adigun, OGTV News.
You're still watching OGTV News, and in part 2 of the news, University of Ibadan, Lagos State University and University of Lagos ranked among 800 universities in the world. More news and reports in part 2 of the news. Do join us then. Thanks for joining us. The news continues. In a bid to find a lasting solution to the lingering boundary crisis between Nigeria and the Republic of Benin, the Ogun State government and officials of the National Boundary Commission, NBC, has paid an on-the-spot visit to Tongeji Island for ethnographic survey. Senior Special Assistant to the Governor on Boundary Matters, Mrs. Khadijat Ahmed, who led the team to the palace of the Akoko of Tongeji Island, Obabiolorun Kosi Okiki, informed that the Prince Dapo Abiodun-led administration was determined to resolve all boundary issues in the state. She added that the visit would help in addressing the misunderstanding and inadequate information on facts pertaining to the first settlers at the boundary.
Kẹ̀lẹ̀ fọwọ́sowọ́pọ̀ pẹ̀lú àwọn ará federal tó wá kí ìlọsíwájú lè wà ní àwọn border communities lọ torí gbogbo àdúgbò yìí náà ló jẹ wọ́n lógún Ogun State náà ní gbogbo wa àdèmọ nǹkan tẹ́rìbọ̀dì ń faragbá nípa ọ̀rọ̀ àlà bí ò kì í ṣe àlà mọ́ border communities, so wọ́n ní kẹ́ fọwọ́sowọ́pọ̀ pẹ̀lú wọn náà.
In his remarks, the leader of the NBC team, Mr. Femi Oshinaike, said the purpose of the survey was to obtain first-hand facts on the area, confirm the identity of first settlers and the location of communities along the boundary corridor of Nigeria and Benin International Boundary through an in-depth study of the history, geography, general administration of the settlement and infrastructure facilities. He added that the Commission has been doing all within its powers to resolve the problems arising from shared boundaries and would not relent in its efforts. Also speaking, the Akoko of Tongeji Island, Obabiolorun Kosi Okiki, commended the state government and the NBC team for the effort, saying the exercise came at the appropriate time as issues were beginning to get out of hand. He noted that many of their lands had been encroached on and farmlands destroyed, appealing to government to come to their aid by addressing the issue as soon as possible. The team also visited the palace of Onikbokia of Ikbokia, Oba Adeniyi Adelakun Olaniyan, and Oniko of Ikolaje Idiroko, Oba John Olakunle Ojo, for an interactive session with baales, chiefs and community leaders for the added purpose of gathering more information about border communities. The Ogun State Commissioner for Information and Strategy, Alhaji Abdulwahid Odushile, has said that position of leadership is not by one's efforts, but that which is bestowed by God. Alhaji Odushile, who said this during a get-together organized to celebrate him on the occasion of his 56th birthday, appreciated God for his life and the position he is occupying, saying he is the ultimate planner.
This Wednesday is a double celebration for me. because I came to the world on a Wednesday. Okay. And I want to thank Almighty Allah. I want to thank Almighty Allah for this blessing, because not everybody that started life at the same time with me is alive today. It's not because of what I've done or I've earned nothing, just His grace. It has been with me, and I pray that His grace will be with all of us and our families.
The commissioner urged staffers of the ministry to be at peace with one another and not indulge in activities that could put the state in a bad light. Speaking, the permanent secretary in the ministry, Mr. Abiodun Awere, expressed satisfaction at the effort of the commissioner since he assumed office, saying the speedy turnaround of things in the ministry cannot go unnoticed. The special assistant to the governor on information and media, Mr. Lekon Oshiade, also marked his birthday, praising God for his benevolence. Air is wishing them more fruitful years in the land of the living. Towards achieving the dream of revitalization of the economy through agriculture, a 4-day training for extension agents and agriculture officers in Ogun State has been flagged off by the Commissioner for Agriculture, Dr. Adiola Odedino. Flagging off the exercise, Dr. Odedino said farmers need the right information at the appropriate time for viable agricultural practices, which is why the extension officers who carry out this task must have the right training. Matthew Shomi completes the report.
As new trends continue to emerge on some of the best ways of achieving profitable agricultural practices, the right information needs to be passed down to the farmers, and this 4-day training is to equip the extension agents and agricultural officers whose responsibility is to pass the information down to the people, declaring the training open, which is being held simultaneously in all the 36 states of the Federation and Federal Capital Territory. Commissioner for Agriculture in Ogun State, Dr. Adiola Odedino, revealed that the state has the highest number of extension officers to farmers in the country, which shows the importance attached to the roles of proper information for farmers in the development of agriculture.
There are a lot of opportunities around. This agency of Ogun State, OGADEP, has been established as a non-profit service agency to advise people on how to make money from agriculture.
The state coordinator, Federal Minister of Agriculture and Rural Development, Engineer Kolawon Oseni, delivering the speech of the Honorable Minister Alhaji Muhammad Sabo Nanunu, said the fortune of agriculture extension has declined due to decreased funding, policy changes, and lack of interest of young people, which has in turn affected food production.
One of the key recommendations was to build the capacity of the youth and existing practitioners in the agricultural extension delivery system, exposing and equipping them with best labor practices and tools to enable them to deliver with efficiency.
Permanent Secretary, Federal Minister of Agriculture and Rural Development, was represented by Dr. Wasiu Oyediran, who said the desire of government is to help farmers and value chain actors make effective use of productive forces and advances in information technology. Director, Federal Department of Agricultural Extension in the Federal Ministry of Agriculture, represented by Mrs. Temitope Banjo, and Program Manager of Ogun State Agricultural Development Program, Mrs. Taiwo Ayonsanwo, said the state is focusing on 3 key areas of cassava, rice, and aquaculture for the training due to its achievements in these areas. The participants praised the government for the training, which will further be stepped down to others.
What we have learned before, we are now seeing it in practical form. So we believe by the time we are doing the step-down training for our fellow colleagues, it will go a long way in bringing about improvement in extension services.
It really help us and help our farmers to produce more, because, you know, the state is ranked first in cassava production. 30
extension officers chosen across different local governments in the state are participating in the program. Matthew Shomi, OGTV News.
The role of youth as a strong force of development in the society cannot be underestimated, as they bring social reform and improvement to the society. They are to correct the mistakes and shortcomings of the previous leaders and completely change the outlook of that particular society. In this special report, Margaret Okunlola extrudes the prospect of youth and how to harness their full potentials. A report.
Young people constitute large percentage of population of most developing countries, Nigeria not left out. Youth are leaders of tomorrow, as they have great potentials, which if tapped into can strengthen the growth and development of the society. Respondents stated the benefits of youth putting their potentials to use in the right way.
The future of every nation lies in what? Their youth. It's the strength, the period that you can do a whole lot of things. You can run around. So you're full of energy, you're full of strength.
Youth are the backbone of any society.
They further explained the dangers and effects of young people channeling their energy to the wrong direction.
When youth are hiding, when they don't have something positive doing, definitely what they will be thinking, what will be crossing their mind at every material time will be negative, and that would spell danger for our nation.
When frustration brings aggression, talk about banditry, talk about kidnapping, you talk about terrorism, these are born out of youths that are frustrated and they just feel there's no point, I die, so they begin to act in a way that they are contrary to the laws. And it can result into several mental health. Most common is depression, suicide. Those are issues that are coming out of a youth that could not fulfill potential, that will not have hope for the future.
As agents of development, how can youth utilize their potentials to achieve success for themselves and the society at large?
We need to put the right resources down, which in terms of is, apart from a good education, we have to also have a system that empowers them so that they can activate and fulfill their potentials.
I want to advise our youths to please involve in good things, apply their potentials and skills in a right way, not in a wrong way.
Continuously sensitizing our young one and making them to see reasons why they have to be good citizens.
You can't build a house in a day. You just have to start from somewhere. My advice is, as in they should just start from somewhere. They should get little things doing. The youth can go into vocational courses to keep life and soul together.
They advised that the peculiarities of every youth be encouraged, as there is creativity in diversity, urging individuals, parents, teachers, and all stakeholders to create an enabling environment for youth to thrive and rise to their full potentials. Margaret Okunlola, OGTV News.
From Abuja, the Federal Executive Council has approved a contract for the construction of 3 substations for the enhanced power supply in Kano and Benue states. Also approved is the extension of power transmission lines to some communities in Abia and Imo states. Minister Salim Maman announced this while briefing journalists after the meeting of the council presided over by President Muhammadu Buhari. It was reported that a memo on the strategic implementation work plan for the Niger Delta region also skate through. The meeting is the 8th for the year 2021 and the 37th to be held virtually in compliance with COVID-19 safety protocols. FEC also considered and approved 6 memoranda aimed at enhancing the nation's power and education sectors, as well as the development of the Niger Delta region. For the power sector, the council approved $27.7 million and 5.48 billion naira for the construction of the 3 substations at Bichi and Kaya in Kano State and Jaginde in Benue State. $506,000 as well as 34 million naira will also be utilized in the extension of transmission lines in Abia and Imo states.
The national grid, in order to house sustainable supply of electricity and also improve capacity.
Before now, there's been complaint that more power is being produced than is being wheeled out. So all these contracts is about improving the capacity of the TCN so that when this electricity is produced, it will get to our homes.
And in continuation of government's efforts at revitalizing and rejuvenating the education sector, over 190 million naira has been approved by the Council for the University of Ibadan towards acquiring a new state-of-the-art microscope for enhanced cutting-edge research in the Department of Anatomy.
Has become obsolete. The federal government, in its holistic attempt to address both its economic and social values, as well as upgrade our educational targets, then approve this, so that we can stop spending the kind of money we spend sending PhD and further research students abroad on the basis of the lack of this particular equipment. And if University of Ibadan is empowered, it will become the fulcrum for many other research faculties around the country, including from neighboring West African countries.
For the Ministry of Niger Delta Affairs, its memo on the strategic implementation work plan for the Niger Delta region has been approved. It is an e-portal where all projects aimed at adding value to the Niger Delta region will be keyed into for effective monitoring, guidance, and planning purposes.
It will also help in stopping duplication of projects. It will also help in stopping false accusations. For instance, the federal government is doing so much through the Ministry of Niger Delta, but most of those projects are being owned by either the local government or state governments without the knowledge of the people. We have about 50 projects completed and ready for commissioning, but for COVID-19, done by the ministry, not the NDDC. And so those projects will be in that portal so that you can sit down in the comfort of your bedroom and look at what the Ministry of Niger Delta has done for your state, has done for your community. You can also look at it, what has Total that is operating within your area done, what has Shell done, what has Chevron done, what has ExxonMobil been able to do in the last 2 or 3 years for you. Those things will all be there.
FEC on critical infrastructure development in Nigeria. On education, the University of Ibadan, Lagos State University, and the University of Lagos have ranked among the top 800 universities in the world. This was contained in the 2021 Times Higher Education World University Ranking obtained on Wednesday. It ranked UI, LASU, and UNILAG as first, second, and third, respectively, in Nigeria. Privately owned Covenant University, Ota, Ogun State, was ranked fourth, ahead of the federal government-owned University of Nigeria, Nsukka, which came fifth, and Obafemi Awolowo University sixth in Nigeria. A breakdown of the ranking further showed that UI ranked within 401 to 500 brackets, LASU 501 to 600 brackets, and UNILAG 601 to 800. Covenant University ranked within the brackets of 801 to 1,000. So also the University of Nigeria, Nsukka, and Obafemi Awolowo University. The ranking showed that of the 6 Nigerian universities listed in the 2021 Emerging Economies University Rankings, UI and UNN scored 1% in international students enrollment, while LASU, UNILAG, CU, and OAU had no record of students enrollment in this category. The University of Oxford tops the rankings for the 5th consecutive year, while mainland China's Tsinghua University becomes the first Asian university to break into the top 20 under the current methodology launched in 2011. The Senate has started a legislative process that would lead to the establishment of a bitumen training institute in Odiaye in Ondo State. The senator representing Ondo South Senatorial District, Nicholas Tofuwomo, sponsored the bill for the establishment of the institute, which passed first reading on Wednesday. Speaking with reporters on the bill, Tofuwomo said Ondo South has the largest bitumen deposit in Nigeria and the second largest in the whole world. He said there is a need to establish a very meaningful institute that would lead to the massive exploration of the mineral resources. He said a lot of debate has taken place on bitumen by Ondo State and even the federal government, with many promises since 1999 without any action till date. This institute will bring all the necessary parties together, including experts from abroad, and they will start exploring bitumen in Nigeria to add value to the economy. Meanwhile, stakeholders in the oil and gas sector are considering crashing the prices of petroleum products, leveraging on artisanal refined system. Senior Special Assistant to this President on Niger Delta Affairs, Senator Ita Enang, gave the indication in a press conference preparatory to the Stakeholders Summit. The conference is to harmonize and improve technology already used by artisanal refiners with the intention to insert its recommendations into the ongoing petroleum industry bill being considered in the National Assembly to give it a legal backing.
Sending it abroad, the cost of the vessel, the cost of demurrage arising. When it is finished, you pay tax in those countries, you pay tax in this country, you pay the port charges of those countries where it is refined and coming from, and then you pay the labor of those countries. And then when it comes into Nigeria, you pay the port charges, you pay the customs, you pay all other charges, and that is what makes up the cost of high refined petroleum products.
The Office of the Senior Special Assistant to the President on Niger Delta Affairs, in partnering with the Ministry of Finance, Ministry of Science and Technology, Department of Petroleum Resources, Domestic Refiners Association, University of Petroleum Delta State, and the Niger Delta Development Commission, NDDC, among other stakeholders, in fine-tuning the process, which is said will crash petroleum products to 100 naira per litre. Chairman of the Economic and Financial Crimes Commission, Abdulrashid Bawa, appeared before an Ikeja High Court on Wednesday to give evidence in a 1.4 billion naira fraud trial. The fraud trial involved an oil company, Nadabo Energy, which Bawa had earlier testified against before his appointment as the EFCC boss. Bawa, who is the fifth prosecution witness, had told Justice C.A. Balogun of the Lagos State High Court sitting in Ikeja that the defendant used forged documents to benefit from the federal government subsidy regime. Bawa had in February identified 2 documents as email correspondence between him and Ulrich Afini Awani of Global Commodities Africa and the certificate of identification on Wednesday. The EFCC boss laid in evidence by the Tribunal Counsel, Seyidu Ate, continued the testimony by analyzing the email correspondences of the defendants. He said that the email exposed significant fraud in the documents presented by the company to the Petroleum Support Fund. Bawa said his investigation showed that the defendants took about 6 million liters PMS from the mother vessel to their chartered vessel. Within a space of 3 months, bandits have carried out 3 successful kidnappings of innocent students in an escalating wave of attacks in the northern part of Nigeria. This, according to experts, does not portray the nation well among the Committee of Nations. In this special report, Benga Adekoya takes a look at the alarming rate of mass abduction of school children in Nigeria and the way out of the rising insecurity. His report.
117 school girls at Government Girls Secondary School Jangebe in Zamfara State on Friday, 26th of February 2021, is the latest phenomenon that is fast becoming a common trend in Nigeria. The unwanted situation, which is the third in the series within a space of 3 months, was attributed to the breakdown of security in the northern part of Nigeria.
And it's unfortunate that even the bandits have chosen to bounce on the kids to the extent that we are even losing some of them. I mean, the boy that was shot trying to escape the other day, I think is unfortunate. But the greater challenge is one would have expected more action from government. I want to believe that the 21st century technology that is available to at least give us what we call digital intelligence is very much available all over the world.
Mrs. Peju Oshoba, a child rights protector and activist, said the causes of insurgency in the north may be primarily political, hence the need for government to wake up to its responsibilities.
It's abominable that children who are meant to be enjoying their rights to education are kidnapped in the process of getting the education that we demand that they should get. So it's very sad, it's troubling, and we're not sure what's going to happen next.
Now that the students have been released, will they be the same students that were kidnapped in terms of character and experience?
Unfortunately, no, because the experience is strange. It's not the norm. It's not the normal way that a child should live. They have witnessed violence. They have witnessed betrayal. The would have been traumatized.
For Mr. Ayuade Shonunke, a public analyst, Nigeria is being faced with a lot of security challenges that may lead to scarcity of food, as farmers can no longer put in their best due to the fear of herdsmen attack. Professor of Animal Physiology, Segun Okunowo, while speaking on the best way to do cattle ranching business in Nigeria to avoid farmers and herdsmen clash, and join government to promote nomadic livestock production in the country.
The best thing is to switch into the modern way of keeping cattle feedlotting and cattle ranching, so that cattle will be reared in confined spaces and given all they need to produce maximally.
Government and parents are, however, charged to wake up from their slumber in order not to allow the alarming rate of banditry and kidnapping hinder children's access to formal education. Benga Adekoya, OGTV News.
On the business segment of the news, Nigerian Stock Exchange completes conversion to public company. These are some business news shortly. Thanks for joining us. The Central Bank of Nigeria, CBN, has spent the sum of 85.89 billion naira on its health sector intervention facility. CBN Governor Godwin Emefiele disclosed this in Abuja while disbursing the sum of 253.54 million naira to 5 researchers for the development of Nigerian COVID-19 vaccines and vaccines for other diseases. The CBN has over time emphasized the need to move from a consumer-based economy to a more productive economy. To this end, the bank has developed intervention programs and schemes across various sectors, including the health sector. The total manufacturing investment in Nigeria dropped by 76.11% in 2020 to 118.52 billion naira from 496.11 billion naira achieved in 2019, even as unsold inventory increased by 43.5% within the period. The unsold inventory represent total goods manufactured but were not sold. The Manufacturers Association of Nigeria, MAN, stated this in its executive summary of the economic review of the second half of 2020 made available. It attributed the decline in investment to the depressing fallout from COVID-19. It estimated cumulative manufacturing investment from 2013 to the second half of 2020 was 5.73 trillion naira based on data generated from surveys conducted by MAN over the period. Meanwhile, according to MAN, unsold inventory increased by 43.5% in 2020 compared to 2019. Inventory of unsold manufactured goods in the sector totaled 577.61 billion naira in 2020 as against 402.42 billion naira recorded in 2019. The Nigerian Stock Exchange (NSE) has received final approvals for the ongoing conversion from a mutual member-owned company to a public limited liability company paving the way for the public listing and trading of the shares of the exchange in the nearest future. Nigeria's Apex Capital Market Regulator, Securities and Exchange Commission (SEC), and the regulatory body for Corporate Affairs Commission (CAC) gave the final approvals for the conversion, otherwise known as demutualization. With these 9 approvals, the exchange has now completed its demutualization process. President, Nigerian Stock Exchange (NSE), Otunba Abimbola Ogunbanjo, said the successful demutualization was one of his fundamental objectives when he assumed the presidency of the exchange, noting that SEC's decision today to approve the NSE's demutualization plans brings these aspirations to a successful conclusion in a process that included the passage of the Demutualization Act through the National Assembly. That was the business segment of the news. Up next is foreign news.